All right, what's going on? We are back for Mind Over Marketing episode 4 in the house. So really excited for this. We got a really cool topic today, and it's something that you and me have both been really going over this last couple of weeks. Really big.
Yeah,
so I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're diving deep into routines and the importance of routines and how they affect your daily life, really. And I'm sure anyone watching right now or listening understands that routines can be like, they make or break your day.
Yeah.
Straight up. And it's really funny. We were chatting about this just before, so I kind of want you to save that to the end because it blew me away.
It will. We'll go into what we were doing,
yeah.
and then because that just happened, so we'll do into what we were doing because you still need to do that part. The only reason I could do the other part, which we're going to allude to as you guys pay attention.
Yeah, so make sure you stay to the end because it's sick.
I just hacked the whole routine, but it's from Rod Damien, just saved my life, but it was awesome. But yeah, let's go into like so topic for today, really going into like. I love even how Aubrey Marcus wrote it as about like own your day, own your life, and this kind of like starts off how you can like position yourself to own every fucking day right from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Maybe even going off for the last couple of weeks. What's it been like for you?
Yeah, man, it's been really good because I've always understood it's that piece of like understanding the importance of daily routines, right?
Yeah,
and always. Really showing, anyone that's following us or anyone that we're teaching is like the importance of gratitude and focusing on that positive side and how impactful it is. And when I started in this business, I was 110% committed to that every single day, everything that I did. And we always talk about the magic a lot and the power of that little piece of the routine, especially for myself when I got into that and how it just impacted everything moving forward. But as it goes, like as I got good with that, it's one of those things where routines, I get into a routine and it flows good. And then once everything's going well, I slowly start to fade off that routine because it's flowing again, right? I'm like, well, why do I don't feel like I need to change anything because it's going so good. And then once you start neglecting those things, it starts to go back down again. And it's like the kickstart. Okay, we got to get back into the routine. And something that I found over this last 2 years is I get really deep into routines and I get really good and then I'll fall right off of it. My excuses, even though it's an excuse, is I start getting excited and travel around and we go to this, we go to an event here, or, my environment's always changing, and that shouldn't be an excuse because no matter what happens with your environment, you can always stick with a routine.
Yeah.
But that was always a crutch that I went to. But this last, I don't know, has it been 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Where we've been really going hard.
Yeah. So this last 3 weeks, it was a combination of a few things that I started tapping on. And one of the things I did is I actually, I put a set of goals, simple goals on my phone. And kind of where this all, like there's a few pieces that solidified into my routine that I have now.
Yep.
And one of them was that video that's floating around. It's like, I think it was on Goalcast or something with the sergeant. And he's talking about,
making your bed.
Yeah. If you want to change the world, you want to do this, that, start by making your bed.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because it was the right moment, the right time for me to hear that. Now every day I make my bed. Yeah. And, before 28 some years, my mom was trying to make me make my bed and I never would.
Well,
right?
even looking to that, like you had no real meaning as to why. Like even you just saying like because of that video, for you hearing this right now, you're like, oh, a video told Aaron. You don't have context, right? But in that video, he goes through the importance of why, right? You make your bed. Well, that tells yourself right away you got something accomplished right away. Yep. And now it's building up on all these. So now you have context as to why you're doing. It's not just make your bed, right? Because you're like, why? Why the fuck do I have to do?
What's the point? I don't mind sleeping in messy sheets.
Yeah.
I don't mind crawling in my bed and sorting my sheets out at the end of the night and jumping in. That's not the point. It's the point of the context behind it of now I've achieved something right away first thing in the morning. So that was a big piece that I put into my routine that's really helped. So another one was the 5 second rule? Not the 5 second rule of food picking up off the floor, but like the 5 second rule of like, I can't remember. It's a girl that does it. And I remember Cass was listening to the podcast one morning, and she talks about counting back from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, commit and do it.
Yeah.
Right. And what I've done and tapped into these pieces with is first thing I did is I got on my phone and I changed my cover photo to my top 5 goals that are like my priorities every single day. No matter what, I have to do these priorities.
Yeah.
Right. First one is 10 push-ups. Second one is make my bed.
Yeah.
Third one is gratitude. Fourth one is activity. So going and getting my heart rate up and being active. And fifth one is reading something, like reading another book other than the gratitude side of things.
Yep.
And since I started really focusing on that first thing in the morning, it doesn't matter what time it is, right? Because I don't use the alarm anymore, which I'm super stoked on. It's super nice.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, as soon as I wake up and I'm conscious and I realize that I'm awake, count down from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get my ass out of bed. Do at least 10 push-ups. I've actually been doing 20 because it just makes me feel tougher. So I'll do 20, and I'll just hammer out 20 push-ups. And then I'm like, you know, I'm up. I'm still kind of groggy because I'm not really the best morning person, but I'm like, okay, blood's flowing now. And it's like, okay, all right. And then I'll go over and I'll make my bed, get my bed sorted out. Literally takes like 30 seconds, you know? It's like such a simple task.
Yep.
But now it's like, I just did 20 push-ups and I just made my bed. And then I'm like, all right, this is going good, man. This is a good morning. And then I'll go have a quick shower. And then I'll go sit down, read my magic, put on my little helmet. No, I'm just kidding. And then I'll just sit down, download some information. And then I'll read in my gratitude. And now it's like, now I get through my gratitude. And within, 45 minutes from my wake up, I've already hammered out 3 of my goals.
Yeah.
And then from there, I'm sipping on my coffee while I'm doing my gratitude. And then I go pound down some more chemicals, some pre-workout, and go hammer out a workout. There's number 4, activities done.
Yep.
Right. And then my reading, I save it for the end of the day where I can actually soak up some more knowledge on, whatever topic I want to focus on. And right now it's the Go-Giver. Yeah, it's a good little story.
Yeah, dude. And it's such an impactful thing to do because it's like, especially right out of the gate, because like, you immediately are getting wins. Like you're immediately doing things productively. You're immediately getting into, really when it comes down to it, you're getting into this great feeling. When it really comes down to why we do a lot of these things in our routines is to get the feeling. That's why we do it. And so like for myself, very, very similar where what ended up getting me into like pumping into doing it was I was already coming in back into the week. It was Sunday, starting Monday. And I'm like, okay, it was like 3 weeks ago or whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm going back into my routine because I know when I'm strict on my routine and I religiously do it, it's amazing to see like how many opportunities just flow, how things just fucking work out perfectly. Like everything just like it's ridiculous. Like I couldn't have planned for all of the things that fall into place perfectly, but it just happens whenever I'm in that routine. So I'm like, okay, I'm going back, I'm getting in it. And what solidified it for me was I'm coming back and I'm listening to a podcast with Tom Bilyeu and Aubrey Marcus, and who owns On It. He wrote the book Own Your Day, Own Your Life. And one of the big things that he was saying, and I have never really done it, and for the same reason we both didn't make our beds, right? I didn't have context to it when I first was suggested. So the thing was the cold shower, and some of you guys might have seen me on my fan page. I did a little video on this, but it was the cold shower aspect. So I've been told about it, right? But I didn't actually do it. Like I did it a couple times, and I'm like, this is so much fucking pain. Like fuck that. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to what the fuck am I getting out of this? Like
this is not enjoyable at all.
No,
this doesn't feel good.
It's fucking horrible. I'm like, fuck this. I'm done. Like this is stupid as fuck. But I had no context as to why I was doing it besides someone saying it's good for you.
Yeah.
Right? So like even Aaron saying like make your bed versus like watch this video and he'll explain, or we sit here and explain in context as to why doing this to give a higher assigned meaning as to why you're doing it, right? So for me now, listening to this podcast, he starts going into taking the cold shower, how it gets your lymph node system going, it releases endorphins, it gets your energy up, it does all these amazing things for the body. So I'm listening to all these things that it does, and I'm like, holy shit, okay, that makes a way more sense now. Now I know why I should be doing it. Now I'm going to actually commit to doing it. I'm willing to now go through the pain of being in the fucking freezing cold that I hate because I know the benefits that I'm getting on the other side. It's not do it because it's good for you. It's do it because of X, Y, and Z, and I know what I'm getting there. And so I committed to go in, and so my main routine that I would go to was normally I would meditate first thing, I would go into my gratitude, and then I would go into some sort of reading of some sort of book, and then I would do a vision and goal setting exercise, or just a visualization where I would at least take 10, 15, sometimes an hour or longer if I really get into something cool, where I would go into a visualization where I know what I'm doing throughout the day. So I'm like, I would visualize the calls I would do and how they would go and the projected outcome that I would want of those calls. Or if there was videos I was shooting, I was projecting it coming out perfectly and what it was going to look like and what was going to come from it. And I would really get into that state of it. And so I'd kind of like already live my day through my visualization the way that I wanted it to go. So it was about an hour and a half for me, an hour to an hour and a half on average. And if I get get nuts on the visualization part at the end, that can be 2 hours or 2.5 hours. But what I found is that every single time that I do that, I get into a feeling. When I visualize, I get into this feeling of like already knowing what's coming and what I'm creating and what it's going to do and how it's going to be like and how awesome it's going to feel. And I get it and I really embody that feeling. Same thing with gratitude. I do the day in the magic. I write down my 10 gratefuls. I do the exercise. I get into this amazing feeling of gratitude.
Dude. And what I found like a little hack for me on how I started explaining it to people. Sorry to cut you off, but it was something that I started focusing on, and then I started explaining it to people, and they're like, that's such a cool way to do it. So what I started doing when I was living in Glenmore was when I would read my gratitude out. So I'd read it out. I'd make sure that I said it out loud, right? And I would read it out. And then when I would close my eyes, it was like diving into visualization. So it was helping me with visualizing and getting those pictures quicker and faster. And I would close my eyes and visualize. And every time I would say thank you, I would envision like, you know, like in the Alien movies when the laser shoots and it hits the ground, it's like when that the laser ripple, like the shockwave.
Yeah.
I just imagine a shockwave coming from me in my home, and then every time I say thank you, I just think of that shockwave just hammering out bigger and bigger. And if I don't feel it yet, I just keep focusing on seeing how big I can make it, because as soon as I start, it feels so good, man, because as soon as I hit it, boom, I get the tingle. Yeah. And then I know that I'm in that inspirational feeling, right? So it's like, I'll focus on it and be like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if I don't hit it, then I'll just focus deeper on that and just see how far I can reach it. And then I started picturing and visualizing, you know, getting to downtown, then getting to the bridge, and then getting over the bridge, and then getting to the connector of the Coquihalla, and just imagining the ripple just getting bigger and bigger until I hit that feeling. Right. And it's a really, really cool visualization that I tapped onto it. And when I started explaining that to people, they're like, I'm going to do that. It's such a sick thing. Because then it's like, if I go, I'm so happy and grateful for my Bubba water jug because it holds a liter of water that I can hammer down and be nice and hydrated for. So then I would close my eyes and say thank you. And I would imagine that Bubba jug just getting hammered with shockwaves. It's a good one. Anyways, I like that.
Dude, I love that. And it's just really cool, and it's just kind of figuring out what for you, you know, ends up working to get you into that feeling. Really, end goal is to get that feeling. So like you did that visualization, you would get that tingling. You know you're in that feeling now. Yeah. That's really the main part of doing this routine, is getting to the point of getting in that feeling. And I notice a drastic effect of whether I get in the feeling at the beginning of the day or if I don't. And when I'm not in that state, when I don't prep myself, when I don't go through my routine, or I don't get into that feeling, I notice myself being more lethargic. I notice myself being lazier. I notice myself not, procrastinating on things, or not being fully in. Yeah. I'm not really focused. I'm not really motivated. I'm not really inspired, because I didn't really take the time for me in the beginning of the day to make sure that I got into that feeling, right? And one of the big parts about it too is, especially when it's something that's different that you're not used to, that you're like having to at first consciously, I don't like using the word force, but consciously commit yourself to doing, right? It's kind of like it's painful doing new things. It's painful doing things that you're not familiar with, or that you're not used to doing all the time, or that you're just not in the routine of doing. And so what I loved is, I'm also listening to Tony's a lot, his podcast, and one of the things that he did, what he was saying about the cold shower part, was because your body fights you, right? And that's where it was a good one for me, because it's starting to influence everything. Just the cold shower alone, not only do I get amazing benefits out of it now, I get way more energy. I feel way more inspired. I just feel like my energy's up. I just feel great. But it also simultaneously, because it's such a painful, like, I don't want to be in cold, my body's fighting it. My body's like, no, what the fuck are you doing? Like, get out.
Yeah, like
right?
trying to jump and rip through the shower curtains. Like,
but what you're doing is you're going, no, I'm in control. It's not the body controlling the mind. It's the mind controlling the body. And so right from that point forward, whenever those things come up now throughout my day, whether it's, do we shoot the podcast? Do we create the group? And I'm like, do I do this? I'm like, no. I'm in fucking control, and I'm fucking doing it, right? And so you keep doing that enough to the point where that just becomes a subconscious habit. It's not now, you don't even have to think about it, because you forced yourself into, like, I'm in control so many times. So now it's like what Tony was saying, where it's how he tells his body, nope, I don't give a fuck if you want to get out. I'm in control.
This is my house.
Yeah, exactly. And it starts to influence everywhere because if you can do that in a no one wants to be in a freezing fucking cold shower.
No.
Your body fights it. You don't want to be in there. You're fucking freezing. But when you can turn it to cold, go fuck you. Like I'm in control, and then sit with it and like be able to breathe. And the big thing that helped me through it is like
that piece right there. I love that.
You know,
piece.
like really consciously breathing.
Because I think it's like it's like it was because I just started doing it probably the last 3 days since we started chatting about it, and then finally I attached enough context and meaning to it. I'm like, okay, fuck.
Yeah.
And so when I do it, because with the shower, and I'm sure you know, like you turn it to cold, and it takes like 20-30 seconds before it kicks in. So it's like, okay, when's it gonna happen? Right? Like it just doesn't hammer you. It's like and it almost makes it worse because it's like anticipation, right? It's like, ugh. But what I found after comparing it to 2 different times that I did it, the one time I just turned it on, I'm just like, okay, stay into the warm. Yeah, it's still warm, and just focusing on the warm, and I'm just like, just not really changing anything. And then all of a sudden it starts saying to me cold. I'm like, right? And then you lose control of your breath, and you can't focus on your breath, and now it's just making it super painful.
Yeah.
Right? And so what I found was when I started prepping into it, so crank it down, and then I'm like focusing on my breath and relaxing to the point where as the cold hit me, it wouldn't change my state really, because it was like, I mean, it would change my body temperature for sure.
Yeah.
But getting into that breath and breathing, it's like it's like the whole point of meditation. Well, one of the big points of meditation and yoga is focusing on your breath, and focusing on your breath is one of those most present things that are happening, because it's happening every couple seconds, right? So if that's your only focus of in and out, you're so like that's a very, very tight place of being right here, right now in the present. So I found as soon as I crank it to cold, I start breathing and I bring myself to that present place, and then the cold hits me. It's like aligning you, right? Because it's like, wake up, you're here right now. Nothing else matters. Your thoughts go out of your head. You're not thinking about like, you know, what you have to do. You're not thinking about the night before because you're getting hit with cold ass water. And it's like, that is the only fucking thing that matters right now. So you're so in alignment in present moment, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy stuff.
It totally is, dude. And it's one, being able to be like, I'm in control. And it's 2, how does my body react when I have like real world examples show up? Like something like that where I'm freezing and my body's fighting, because there's certain times in your life I see this as such a big thing. I see it just filtering out into life everywhere, because there's times in life where your body is naturally like, no, fuck this, or I don't want to do this, or it's painful, and you got to be able to like get centered, breathe, and go, no, like I'm in control, and I'm the one doing it, regardless to how much my body's fighting this right now. It could be a workout, it could be something you're doing in business, it could be a video, it could be whatever. But being able to like train yourself to get connected to your breath, get really calm, get into that state, be in control, and now you're the one dictating what you're going to do, not allowing your body to start controlling and dictating what you do. And so now you end up being able to consciously create your life. And one of the things that Rod even was telling me to do, and I did it the last time I did it, was he was saying, go through when you do the cold shower, if you were to sit there and you were to imagine yourself looking at your internal temperature, and imagine it being like in a temperature gauge. Okay. So you're looking at it, you see the gauge, you see the water coming on and it's cold, and you see the temperature start to go down because the cold is coming in, right? And then you imagine yourself going up to that internal temperature, turning it up, and seeing the number go up and seeing it get warmer, and tricking because your mind can't tell whether you're imagining something or whether you're actually experiencing it. So you trick your mind to thinking that you're literally watching a dial and turning it up and feeling warmer. And what does that feel like? So that's one I got to play around with a little bit more. But he's got a lot of really cool little energy tricks that he does.
Even kind of like chi or something, isn't it? Kind of idea? Isn't that the chi, like where you pull energy through and you can like, those guys will like heat up their hands?
He was showing me that. He was going like this, and he had me do this thing where you could feel that. It was cool. It was really, really cool, man. Like
that's cool stuff.
It's really, really cool. And oh man, so that brings me to so these are especially with routines. So the big thing, 1, you're doing it to get a feeling. 2, all right, it's whatever you need to do whether it's I need to go through the gratitude exercise and that's what it gets. At first, you're going to have to like leverage triggers to get you to that feeling. So you're going to have to visualize for a certain amount of time. You're going to have to read the gratitude and write it down and do whatever to get you to that feeling, right? And so it's very, very important to structure your routine. And some people's are going to be half an hour, some are going to be an hour, some might be 2 hours, right? Now, whatever you need to do to get into that feeling. And the thing is, the goal always from the beginning is the feeling, right? That's what we're ultimately trying to do. And so mine was up until last week taking me about an hour and a half on average to do. And so I'm jumping on with Rod and I'm doing a call with him and I'm explaining, you know, the differences between when I'm in my routine, when I'm not in my routine, the drastic differences in my energy levels and my inspiration and my motivation and my creativity and like how big of a gap it is when I'm in or when I'm out. And I'm explaining what I do in my routine and how amazing it feels when I'm in it. And then when I don't do it, how shitty it is and all this. And he goes, okay, well, and we go into the routine and he goes like, okay, so how long does it take you to do that? I'm about an hour and a half. He goes, okay. Does that seem like a long time for you? Like just for you? I'm like, no, but now that you asked me that,
now that
you think, because now that you asked me that, if I could do it faster and get the same feeling out of it, yeah, I'm open to that, right? And he's like, well, how about if you could do it in 5 minutes? I'm like, well, yeah.
I'm all about the cheat codes.
I'm in. I'm all about hacks. I'm all about cheat codes. What do I need to do? And he goes, okay, well, all of those things you are doing serve a purpose, right? You doing your gratitude exercise serves a purpose. You're training yourself how to get to the point of experiencing that feeling of gratitude. Your visualization serves a purpose. You do it as long as you need to and as vivid as you need to get to that feeling, right? Once you've trained yourself what that feeling feels like, you no longer have to go through that whole entire process to get to that feeling. And he started explaining that way, and I'm like, okay, you got me. You got my wheels turning. What's up here? He goes, well, if you want to do a little exercise here, I can show you something real quick. And I'm like, yep, I'm in. Like, let's go. And so what he had me do was he goes, okay, so sit down, close your eyes, and go into I want you to go into the state that you feel in when you haven't done your morning routine. And I want you to take 2 deep breaths in through your nose, out through your nose as well. And take and one more breath. And when you're done that breath, and when you're there, I want you to say, I'm here. And so I go into that state, and I'm like, okay, I'm here. He's like, how do you feel? I feel lazy and lethargic and like I couldn't even think of like describe. I'm doing it right now, so I'm having a hard time even thinking of it. I don't feel, I'm not motivated. There's no ideas. It's almost just stress. Like I don't feel good. He goes, okay, let's go back. Take 2 deep breaths. And he goes, now keep taking those deep breaths until what you're now going to go into is the feeling of you being in that amazing state that you get in when after you're done your morning routine. And so you take as many breaths as you need, but ultimately you're getting into that state that you said that you feel. And he didn't give me any describing words. He was like, how you determine, right, your state. So he's not influencing it. And as soon as you've taken enough breaths and as soon as you're there, let me know, right? So I was doing the first one like this, right? And I'm lethargic and I'm slow, right? And he goes, okay, now take the other deep breaths. And I'm like, I'm immediately sitting up. My eyes are open now. And I'm like, and I'm just like really slow going into it. And I'm getting into that state of like how amazing I feel. And I've done my gratitude. I feel extremely grateful. I've done my visualization. I can see exactly how my day is going and what that's going to do for all my days moving forward that lead up into it and how it compounds over. And I'm going into that and I get into this great feeling. And I got to the point where I stood up and I was like, whoa. I was like, this is how I feel. Just like, he's like, how do you feel? And I'm like, this is how I feel after my routine. I got ideas going. I know we're getting podcasts. We're getting on Buzzsprout. So I'm thinking about that right now. We're going to put that there. And I know that I'm going to go, and I'm like, and I'm inspired. I'm motivated. I feel lit up. Like I feel all of those things. And I'm like, this is my feeling. Like, that's where I get it. And I was like, he's like, cool. You just did that in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Because like now, and he goes, but you see why that works though. Like, had you just tried to do that without knowing that feeling, without doing the magic as many times as you've done it, without visualizing as many times as you've done it, without meditating as many times as you've done it, you don't know that feeling enough to be able to just turn it on.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to do that stuff first.
Absolutely.
Which is why it was very, very important that we go through and like, you got to do that piece first. And you're doing the meditations more so. You're doing the visualizations more. Because the more you do it, the more you get into that feeling. And you now get to that feeling so vividly that you now can just turn it on.
State change,
right? And so you can basically, state change and turn that on. And so once you can get to that point, because like one of the things that he was explaining was that like, because what I found is like, man, when I'm not doing that routine, like I'm out of it. And like if I'm traveling, fuck, like, because I got events and I got this, I got, you know, it's hard to be in there. And he goes, well, that's just it. And what I found was when I was doing my routines like that, was they became a crutch.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't get them done, I was fucked. And if I got it done, I was great. But if I traveled, or he's like, and I got kids, man. Like as soon as the kids came in, like, you think I'm going to be able to sit for 2 hours and do this whole thing without having them run into my room and freaking out and do it? No, like I had to figure out a way to hack that. And he goes, so like once you can get to that feeling and you can anchor in what that feeling feels like, right? And so whatever you need to do in your routine to like do it over and over and over and over again, so you can assign the meaning that you have once you're done and that feeling that you get, right? Once you've known that feeling and you know that feeling, you know what it feels like, you get the tingles, like you know what it is, right? You now can start working into, okay, how long can it take me if I go into the other state? I go into me being lethargic and lazy and whatever, and when I'm not in there, and I get into that part, right? And I'm breathing into there, and then I go, okay, now I'm going to switch back into that other state of me being super grateful. I'm super excited. I'm really motivated. I'm ready to go. I have more energy than ever. I have more mental clarity. My brain fog's gone. I'm right in there. And then, you know, it might not be that you can get there right in 5 minutes. I've been doing state changes for a bit. Like every time I go on a stage, I always sit with myself 5 or 10 minutes before. So it wasn't like I've never done a state change before and then I just did this. So if you don't have if you're not familiar with doing that, it might take you a little bit longer, but it's basically you make it as long as you want to make it. You basically will get to the point where you can just turn it on. And so the faster you can kind of do that. And then what he's saying is like, it doesn't mean don't meditate, don't visualize, don't do all these things, don't do your gratitude, right? But do those because you are choosing to take the time to do those things, not because it's a crutch and you have to do it or you're fucked.
Yeah, I have to do that or else my day is hooped.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that, because that's something that I go through a lot, where it's like, you know, if I'm not in my own bed that morning, or if I'm, you know, traveling or whatever, it just changes everything around, and then I make it an obligation in a place. Like now it's like, oh man, I didn't do my gratitude this morning, or I didn't take my time, you know, to meditate or whatever, and then it's like, fuck, and then that's a focus now, right? Because and then it's using it as like, well, you know, it's you know, I had a bad day, but you know, it's just because I know I wasn't able to do my morning routine.
Yeah, that's an excuse.
I got an excuse. So I like that, but I also agree with the fact of like, you know, this isn't a cheat code for somebody that's like brand new into like daily routines and gratitude and meditation and visualization and everything, to be like, fuck it, I don't even have to do it. I'll just take 5 minutes like Jang does.
Yeah.
Right? No, that's not the point.
Yeah.
Right? The point is like, I think it's important to, like you said, like make sure you get into those places and make it so you're choosing to do that because you know what the impact it's going to create for yourself, but also being able to understand what that feeling is so you can transfer it when you need it.
100%. Right? Like I can do that now because I've read the magic probably like 20 times over. I've meditated like countless hours of meditation. Yeah. I've done a lot of it. Like visualizing is something I'll lose myself for hours. So like I've spent a lot of time. So I know what the feeling is, right? So it doesn't mean you have to read the book 20 times to get there, but you need to do it enough till you can like, you know what that feeling is.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, and as Rob was breaking it down with me, because I was thinking about visualization, I'm like, well, what about, because I'm trying to poke holes and I'm trying to be like, hold on to my, like, but, I feel like I got to still do my gratitude. It is,
Don't
right?
change my beliefs.
I got to do the full exercise. I got to do this. He goes, well, when you really look at it, what's the goal of it? Like, what is the goal of you doing it? And he goes, really, when it comes down to it, no matter what you say it is, the goal and the actual benefit you're getting out of it is a feeling. We're energetic beings. And all of that comes from our feeling, and how we are feeling is what projects out, and that's basically our electromagnetic field that attracts and creates everything in our world. And it comes from the feeling we have. When we're feeling lazy and lethargic and unmotivated and resentful or this or anger or whatever, that's what's projected out in all of our conversations and ever. So when we get feeling grateful, when we feel inspired, when we feel love, when we feel all of these things, that's what's going out. And he goes, look, because I'm like, what? But, the visualization, though, I visualized numerous times, or I visualized myself walking on stage so many times that I walked on stage and got it. He goes, okay. And I'm like, and as I'm saying it, I'm like, fuck. Because when I visualized that, most of the stuff was real, like the same. So I would look, the pillars on the wall of me speaking on my first stage, how high the stage was, the seating arrangement, the pattern on the carpet. But I didn't know the exact, like there were certain visuals that wasn't exactly the same, right? But the feeling was the exact same.
There's your common denominator.
The feeling, same thing with the Thailand one. When I would visualize seeing the thing, right? I visualized seeing monkeys and like other parts that weren't there. The bay was there, the up high view was there, but there were certain visuals that weren't there, but the feeling was the exact same. So like that's ultimately when we're getting into that. We're getting into that feeling, because what that does, and it really ties into, so Rod trains a lot with Joe Dispenza. Joe Dispenza's been his mentor really for like the last 10 years or so. And so, which ended up making this even more perfect, because like really what we're doing is we're getting to the feeling normally, and that feeling is releasing an emotional response. Okay. Normally the only time we get to experience the emotional response is after an event happens. So you know what I mean? After an event happens, an emotional response and a feeling comes after, right? And so if that's normally how it goes, we don't normally get to experience that till after the event. And so what we're doing by doing this, and by getting into that state of feeling the gratitude, feeling the love, as if the thing's already happened, feeling into that, you are going and tying into that emotional response of that feeling that's supposed to come after the event happens. And now your brain it messes with your brain of, as it happened already or not, it can't tell the difference. So that now triggers new choices based on that emotional response. Now there's new choices, and that lead to the new thoughts, that lead to new choices, new behaviors, new experiences, and then new emotional responses that then go back and trigger those thoughts. And it creates this perpetual feedback loop, but it's a feedback loop pulling from the vision of the future, of the feeling that you want to embody and the things that you want to create, not going back. And when we normally look at 60, 70,000 thoughts a day, 90% of which are the same thoughts we had yesterday, that trigger the same choices, the same behaviors, the same experience, the same emotional response that we're so used to and so familiar with, that creates a very predictable future based on the past. Right? So this is a way where we can kind of trick our minds into taking a very crystal clear vision of what we ultimately want to create, coupling it with an elevated emotional response, which will give us that feeling as if, how great you feel after your routine, and how great you feel, like even like talking it back to your perfect day, right? How does it feel when you go into that perfect day of you riding in the powder and you're just out there and you're having fun and you're like, fuck yeah, and now you're literally going and taking and pulling from the future rather than recreating from the past. And it becomes extremely, extremely powerful. But it's one of the biggest things that I do is the visualization part, but really what it came down to was the feeling. And so now it's like, how can I hack that and just have that feeling all the time? So now what I notice is, even before doing this, even just like sitting and like getting into that, even just right now where I just did it while we're on the podcast, right? And it lit me right up, and I got way more like next part I wasn't going to talk about, but it got me into that state that brought it up, like it's constantly doing those. And like, if I got to go shoot a video later, if we do another episode later, like I'll continuously do that. So it's not about just doing that routine in the beginning, right? And spending that hour and a half and that's it. It's like, whatever I need, 5 minutes or a couple minutes or whatever I need to do to get into there. And then before I do anything, getting into that feeling of like, what's it going to be? Like, what is this podcast going to do? What is it going to make us feel like when we're able to impact fucking millions of people that are all going and watching this stuff, that are changing their routines? They see the experience that happens to them. They go, holy fuck, my life's better than it's ever fucking been, because it started with one episode where you guys captured my attention talking about your routine. I did one little switch that fucking hooked me. And then all of a sudden I was learning about marketing. I was learning about mindset. I was deliberately creating my future. I now have a business that makes me X, Y, and Z, and I do what I fucking love.
Yeah.
And like, that's going to be amazing.
Yeah. I became a human being, not a human doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Straight
I
up.
all of a sudden was being in that place. I was pulling those emotional, that it's just the whole idea of being, right? That was the perfect in-depth definition of being, the be, do, have, right? The being there, experiencing it, feeling it, visualize, like the feeling of having it, right? And then it all just flows with it. Human fucking beings.
We're human.
I'm a human being. Yes. Man, that was fire for a bit there. Woo!
Dude, I like it. So with that being said, for that one, I think that's a pretty good cap on there. And what I would definitely suggest, whether you're watching us live right now inside of our Facebook group, if you haven't gotten in our Facebook group, check out www.facebook.com/groups/mind over marketing. We'll make sure that our good buddy Josh gets you approved into that group right away. If you are in the group, you're seeing it there. So let us know what your biggest takeaway is if you're in the group. If you're not and you're watching this on the iTunes platform or any other platform where you're watching this listening to this podcast, please make sure to leave us a review and let us know what your biggest takeaway was, your biggest takeaway was, what you loved the most about it. And if you haven't been in the group yet, we just got that set up. Make sure to go check it out on Facebook. We're going to have a lot of exclusive content in there. We're going to be going live periodically. We just actually gave them the whole episode on this one.
Yeah, I know. Lucky. Yeah. You guys are so lucky.
But moving forward, what we're going to do is you're going to have exclusive access to content in there. You're going to have sneak peeks to episodes before they go live. You're going to get at least a 10-minute little sneak peek of the episode before it goes live. You're going to have a lot of micro content in there. Whenever we recommend anything, so we'll have a file section that'll have all of those resources, so everything can live and breathe inside of that Facebook group. And there's also going to be spaces for you guys to provide feedback. Yeah. What do you guys like? What do you guys not like? What do you guys want us to do more of? Are there certain people that you want to bring on? I was just chatting with Scott Old earlier today. He's down to pop on with us, so he'll be coming on with us soon. There's a lot of big people that want to be able to jump on with us, so we're gonna have a lot of really cool people on, really just dissecting what it means to create success in business when it involves, really the two main pieces, which is your mindset and marketing. And really making sure that we kind of get it in all different perspectives from all different types of people that are in all different arenas, and share from our own personal experiences and our clients' experiences. So this is something that you got some value out of. Please give us some love on the review part of the podcast platform that you're on. Let us know what your biggest takeaway was. If you're in our Facebook group and you're watching the live, whether it's a snippet or the video, please make sure to let us know what your biggest takeaway was. What's something that you're going to apply as well? So biggest takeaway and how you're going to apply it to your life.
Yeah, the implementation of shit. That's the important part.
Yeah.
Because we can talk all day and give you guys all knowledge from what we've learned and our experiences, but if you guys don't take it and implement it, then we're really not making the impact that we want to.
Yeah.
Right?
This is...
Put it to work.
Put it to work.
All
right. That being said, that concludes our episode 4. Love and appreciate every single one of you guys. Thank you guys for taking the time out of your day, whether it's in our Facebook group or whether it's on listening to the podcast right now. Really looking forward to that. Again, leave us a review of your biggest takeaway, or if you're in the group, give it to us in there, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you on the next podcast.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Peace.